Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1997 Hummer H1. Up front is a 6.5 liter turbo diesel V8, and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this Hummer H1 for one reason. It's iconic, it's crazy, and this has been on my bucket list for quite some time. And so today, we get to finally check off this military vehicle that was able to be purchased by civilians. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that 6.5 liter turbo diesel V8 under the hood. Well, it is a Detroit diesel V8. This is all business, no fun. Now, it sounds like a traditional diesel, and it has absolutely brute force. It's not fast, it's not even relatively quick, it's not even brisk. It is just all beef, no vegetables. And that's how we like it. Now, a lot of people will swap the Duramax in, and actually, towards the end of its run, they were doing Duramaxes in the Hummers. But this is Detroit, baby! Motor City, home of Kremlin and Duvet. That's what we love to see. Now, like I said, paired to it, surprisingly, is the 4L80E. God bless it. It is putting in overtime here in the Hummer H1. However, that is the beefier option that GM had at its disposal when this vehicle came out. So, it works, it shifts, it propels the vehicle forward, or at least helps to, so I'll take it at face value. Last but not least, of course, the Hummer is four-wheel drive, and we'll talk about how to select that a little bit later on. How does it feel to drive the Hummer H1? The first thing you notice is the sheer scale. This thing is wide, it is big, it is long. You take up way more space than you might think. And you'll recognize that more with the interior. Visibility is not good. You're basically looking out of a prison window with a giant bar in the middle. There's a pillar in the middle of the windshield. A pillar, super thick, not helpful. So you're flying a little blind in a military vehicle. It's no wonder why these get the flack that they do, but it's also a very cool experience. I'm literally piloting a bunker. I mean, how flippin' cool is that? One thing about the driving experience, I do have to say, it's incredibly light to steer. The power steering is definitely overworking itself here. It is so light and nimble. It's lighter than a Miata in terms of steering feel, which is just ludicrous. But it makes the H1 a little bit more manageable. So I definitely like to see that. There we go. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 5 gauges. Off to the left is my battery voltage and oil pressure. In the center is my speedometer, and off to the right is my coolant temperature and fuel. We get more gauges off to the right for the tachometer, clock, and an auxiliary fuel switcher. So this does have an auxiliary fuel tank, meaning a secondary fuel tank. Then we do have a tire pressure gauge, inflate and deflate selectors, and tire selectors. So this can actually inflate and deflate its tires. Absolutely cool. And we have our alert, standby, wail, and yelp sirens. So neat. And off to the left, we have a climate control vent up top, and then we have a bunch of lights for our cargo lights, panel lights, our wipers, and our power mirrors. And moving somewhat into the center, we do have 2 climate vents. Now, an aftermarket radio and the climate controls. I say somewhat in the middle because the actual center console is absolutely ginormous. You cannot touch your passenger from the driver's seat. You get 2 12-volt outlets as well as cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test, and unfortunately, the Hummer H1 fails the big friggin' bottle test. But it is this giant console. You do get window switches as well. And then down into the center, we have the parking brake, 4-wheel drive settings, and the shifter. All very rugged, very utilitarian, very military. The seats have been reupholstered and they're actually quite comfortable. So in terms of steering and sitting, it's actually quite a good ride. But I can't say I would recommend it all that much. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats. So let's go do a back seat review. This is my backpack. Carries all my equipment when I do these trips out of state. I'm in Georgia today. This is the perfect vehicle if you hate your siblings. On a road trip, you have 3 to 4 feet before you can even touch your neighbor. Absolutely wild how large this center console is. Now, there's actually a good reason for it. This being a military vehicle has to cover rough terrain. That's the whole point of it. So the entire drivetrain, axles, drive shafts, transmission, everything that powers and makes the vehicle move is moved and tucked up so high that this is actually where it lives. This is where like the transmission tunnel and the drive shaft and all that goes, to keep it up and out of the way, to help protect it against the environment, against possible gunfire, things like that. So it makes this very, very wide. You could also fit all of your crew, all of your guys, and all of their stuff in here. Now, we do have climate vents that look at either seat, and these seats, of course, have been reupholstered as well. But that's it. This is a very, very odd back seat. I've never had 2 disconnected back seats in a vehicle before. Very interesting. Let's hop around the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. Oh, around the back of the Hummer H1. Absolutely gargantuan. So you open up this right one first, this one with the keyhole. This one won't open because it relies on this one. You can see that there's actually a lip in here. Then you can open it up like that. As you can tell, just like with the back seats, it has that raised floor to get the drivetrain out of the way. Obviously, these are not factory, but they slap. And there you go. That is the rear cargo space. You have these giant windows back here. I'm surprised none of them came with a 3rd row. Maybe in the military they use it, you know, troop transport with a 3rd row, but it's actually kind of nice carpet. It's not bad, but there you go. That is the back space of a Hummer H1. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and this is undeniable. You see this coming, you get out of the way. That's how it works. This is a brute force that happens to have 4 wheels. This is the dark side with hubcaps. I mean, it's one of the most iconic vehicles ever. If you draw a military vehicle, it's either the World War II Jeep or this. And honestly, as time goes on, it's more often than not this. So the exterior, it's undeniable. Absolutely undeniable. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the Hummer H1 for today's video? Well, a few things will stick with me. First of all, the steering is light. It's actually like easy to physically drive. It rides relatively well, and honestly, it's not as daunting. You just have to remember that you're a football field wide and a basketball court long. So why does this exist? It's a very good question. Back in the early 90s, there was something called the Gulf War. It's one of the many wars we've entered here in the United States. And in that war, we used this, the Humvee. And since technology was progressing and whatnot, the Gulf War was being covered on TV quite a bit. And when the war was getting covered, our troops were driving these. People started to fall in love with them. One important person fell in love with them the most. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Austrian bodybuilder turned actor turned politician turned dad of the worst character in White Lotus, loved them so much that he lobbied to get them sold here in the US. He wanted one of these so bad. And GM stepped up and said, sure, we'll do that. We'll build one so you can buy it. This became a status symbol. This became the ultimate showing of exuberant wealth. I'm so rich that I can buy a military vehicle and drive it as if it were a Corolla. I'm sure if people could buy an A1 Abrams tank, they would have, but they had to settle for the Humvee. And as they grew in popularity around the 2000s, environmentalists started to get involved. This is extremely environmentally friendly, and this kind of became the face of everything wrong with the automotive industry. And so that once aspirational, exuberant wealth vehicle was now hissed and spit on. And it's no wonder why. This thing is way too big. It's way too inefficient. No one in their right mind or being needs a vehicle like this. But then again, that's where the speciality sinks in. Doing something not because you have to, but because you can, That is where the true luxuries of life come in. You don't have to get the more expensive hotel. They have budget options. But you spring for the Four Seasons. You don't have to get the cheese and fixins on your burger, but you spring for it to enjoy it a little bit more. It's the things that we don't have to do that become joyful. And this truck is joyful. It's big, it's obnoxious, it's bloated, but it's joyful. This is everything right and everything wrong with America rolled into one single automobile. And it's a classic case of people thinking they know what they want, but this is not really what you want. This is too much. However, too much is fun. It's not fast, but it is fun, and I'll give it that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Alex for letting me borrow his Hummer H1 for today's video. Alex has been absolutely wonderful to work with. Such a down-to-earth, kind person. He's great. I appreciate him because this is just an absolutely wonderful experience. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, subscribe if you really liked it, and we'll end with one more diesel chug. Take care, guys.